Hyben. And we are here to essentially, in this webinar, present to you a couple of new extensions. We're going to talk about the ideas behind those. The first one is the business technology strategy, telling about the viewpoints of the business technology and what kind of questions you'll be asking normally when you're doing the strategic work for that. Then we will also share the transformation, essentially business technology implementation journey, which takes into account the perspective of the people and what does it mean for the organizations and people behind that when we are saying we need to change our way of working. And I will also share some other news, meaning what has been released currently. So we have released a new version in January, and I'll be speaking about that. But no further ado, let's start with the business technology strategy, and I invite Menno to take the stage.
Thank you, Elena. Happy to meet you here all. I'm going to share my screen, so I hope you can see that as well. Does it work correctly, Elena? Can you see it? Okay, I'm happy to announce that we just issued a new extension, a new guidebook, if you will, regarding business technology strategy. If you go to btmenace.org, under the download section, you will find the posters, and there you will find also this new poster about business technology strategy, with the highlights of the most important pictures in there. I think you can see this extension a bit as a compilation of topics that were already available in the BT standard regarding strategy, but there's also put in a bit better context, but there's also a lot of new content, which I gladly give you now a bit of an overview of what you can find there. So I go with you and also give a bit of an idea on how the material is structured. Overall, you can find there are like 60, 70 slides, so I won't show them all, but we go with kind of giving you an overview, what is all there. So we have an introduction, and then we discuss the business technology strategy from out of three viewpoints, so the business capability and operations. I come back to that one. But as an introduction, and overall, when you start to talk about business technology strategy in any kind of dialogue with the stakeholders, then of course this mindset model, which we have had already for long in the BT standard, is the perfect vehicle to have such discussion and discuss the role of what the BT organization should have in the overall organization. So how much effort do we put on the digital frontline development? In what shape is our technology backbone? What kind of transformations do we need? And we have in this version also put the data diamond here in the middle, as that is also an important strategic element. So by using the mindset model, you have already one very effective template to start discuss business technology strategy. So this is an example. You can of course start to articulate that what are we exactly going to do to improve our customer or employee experience. So what do we need to do with the digital transformation to succeed with that? What are our objectives there? What are we going to do to improve our operational performance? And what does it actually really mean for us in the organization to lead with data? So as an introduction, this is always a very good beginning to start talking and use this mindset model to open up the discussion. But then further we discuss in the extension the whole the topics through three viewpoints. So as I said already, the business capability and operations, and we list there also the type of key questions that would be good to discuss there. But we're also saying is that it's not a must order that first the business and then the capability, then the operations. You can take, depending on the organization and your situation and level of maturity, you can take any entry point to start explore the business technology strategy. But let's do so that I take those three viewpoints step by step and present you with some few highlights from there. So anyway, let's start with the business viewpoint. So there would be the type of questions that how do we structure the business technology organization into value streams, as value streams are a very good vehicle to kind of connect the business strategy with the business technology strategy. What are the strategic must-wins? What kind of technology are we using? Also, you could discuss questions about sustainability in this area. A key picture here is some picture that has been already for long in the BT standard. For the ones under you who have succeeded to pass the green card test, this is picture number 301, the strategy and governance discipline in the BT standard. But as you can see, we have made tiny improvements on it. We have, for example, added here also the topic of sustainability, and also related it back to managing by value stream and development collectives. So still, to put this picture in context, the upper part is really telling about the strategic planning and how to do a rolling alignment with the business priorities. So that's also important for business technology strategy, that is rolling. It's not something you do every 5 years, but that's something that, of course, depending on the clock speed of an organization, something you might want to do every quarter or every half a year to really make sure that you are aligned with the business priorities, and also build the capabilities to respond to certain changes. So the value stream is a very good vehicle to capture kind of the business strategy. So to really understand what is the business mission and the strategy and what it starts to mean for the business technology organization. The development collective is then, of course, the virtual teams that crystallize the demand and can start doing the business design on what should be done. The second level of this picture is then, like we had already in the BT standard, the kind of capabilities you require in order to be aligned with the strategy. So this is still a good picture to kind of position where what to do with strategic planning and what it means for the business technology organization. So important is value streams, and in the material we explain also a bit better on how to set up value streams. This is also the picture you can find in the BT standard, giving some examples of the kinds of value streams you can have in an organization. Of course, the number 2 here is a very clear case where the value stream is fully connected to the business strategy. But in practice, it might be something like we have here an example of a combined perspectives, like we took here an example of a department store where the customer's perspective, operations perspective, business enabler perspective are combined as value streams. But here you can find in the material, we have some more advice on leading the discussion on how to set up value streams, also to communicate the value of having value streams, what you can reach with them, that you have a smoother collaboration between the business and the technology. You can better optimize your services, and you have also a better allocation of end-to-end resources for your activities, ensuring at the other hand that you really deliver the value what you are supposed to deliver. So this would be the type of questions you can also use as a template, that how many value streams will we have and what kind, how much money are we going to allocate to each value stream, and also how much do we give independence to those value streams, or how much do we still want to kind of do alignment between the value streams. So this is a kind of a template you can then also use to help you designing what kind of value streams you need to in order to be better aligned with the business strategy. Another topic for the business part is that we talk about, it's a good communication way to really recognize what are the strategic must-wins. So this should be easy to understand and high priority calls of what is the objectives that the overall organization needs to succeed. And that helps then also to formulate what is the mission of a value stream, and really have then also the design focus on those topics. So in the material we go through a few examples on how you can document it, and I show you here the next one. This would be one way to articulate what would be a strategic must-win of a retail organization, for example, that they are focusing on building new web shop as a strategic must-win. And you could kind of, like in the table on the right side, lift up the strategic planning topics as in the earlier picture, like the ecosystem, the processes, the people, the technology, etc. And formulating their kind of mission or vision statements of what needs to be done. So you have a kind of vehicle or a communication tool to direct development in the right direction and being aligned with the strategy. So that's the part of the business business perspective of the business viewpoint of the business technology strategy. If we then go to the capability viewpoint, we kind of go more onto core what is already in the business technology standard, very much the capability model. So there we ask questions that who owns what kind of capabilities and role identities do we have? What is our operating model? What competences do we need? How do we build to be able to react quickly to significant business changes? And there is, of course, the capability model one important instrument for it. And here we also re-emphasize that there are those flows in there. We have the strategy to plan flow in the model. So really to capture the defined strategic intents and must-wins, and those go via the demand to two separate flows, that building the plan to capability, really building the capabilities in the organization to execute on the strategy, and the plan to benefits, which is then the actual development activities and service activities that deliver then the benefits. And then, of course, with the feedback loop back to gain the insights on the outcome and make sure that the value is delivered. One new part we took with the capability part was what we call now the minimum viable creation framework. I like this very much. This is kind of a simple template also to recognize the minimum setup and the minimal components you need to start to run a business technology organization effectively and being aligned with the business strategy. The key components being then, of course, the value stream, or if you talk more in safe terms, the tribe, where the portfolio is there, the key management tool. Then we have those development collectives, that the virtual teams that crystallize demand and articulate that into a development roadmap. And then you have the teams that actually then execute on those roadmaps, that articulate what is exactly the requirements, come up with the backlog, and then start to develop their solutions, and it goes to service and operations. So those are the kind of the minimal elements you need, and those you can then start to scale to define how your organization should look like. You can also use this, as we have been doing, to identify that what are the minimum roles in order to lead such an organization. So there is then, as you and we have the further extension on explaining all the roles, but here are the kind of the key ones kind of summarized. So the business information officer, the value stream owner, the business and product owners. So the business and product owners coming up with the roadmap, and then the project managers taking that roadmaps and turning it into a project or a DevOps activity, and running a backlog and making sure that then at the end the value gets delivered. So that was on the capability side. The kind of the key slides I wanted to show. Last but not least is then, of course, the operations. There are the typical questions, and it is perhaps more the classical IT type of strategy, what we're talking about, with what partners and vendors do we want to cooperate, what are our key technologies and platforms, what are our costs and targets, and what trends do we follow, and what is our most important data. And to answer those questions and to have that discussion, we came up with a quite nice canvas, if you will, that captures all the key elements there of the operations. So it also follows the logic again, that from left to right, there goes the demand, the development, the rollout, the service consumption in the end, and it has then the elements that we do case-based project management, or sprint-based, or change request-based solution management. Then it goes lower into the design, that if it's used interaction, workflow, data, etc. So on the left side is also very much about the planning. Are we doing a transformation? Are we building new business capabilities? Do we just do some feasibility study or use cases or data? And on the other side, we have then the service consumption, that what are we going to use, the business apps, the collaboration applications, the devices, all that stuff, and what data we come. So there's a lot of detail on this map, but in a way you find all the components there. And I want just to demonstrate that this is also a very good discussion and communication tool, because here's an example where, for example, the business technology costs have been allocated to those different areas. And then by using color codes, you can of course say that, okay, the green ones are, they can be increased because we need to invest more in value streams and transformation capabilities, and we need to get more low-code solutions in-house. And then the blue ones might be indeed that, okay, the cost levels are quite okay, let's keep going what we're doing, no changes required. And you can also identify perhaps the areas where you really need to do some reduction and for example, introduce automation in order to manage your devices better or other issues. So this is just an example of how to use the canvas to start to express your strategic intent on what you want to do with your business technology operations. I have another example where it's also, you can have here the dialogue that who pays what, that what comes out of the technology budget and what is the business paying. So in this example is that the business budget is very much about the demand planning, the crystallizing of the demand, so that's their responsibility, and then also the actual usage of all the services, whereas the technology budget is there in the middle, as you can see. I think one last example I have here is you can also do like vendor management. With what vendors are you doing what type of activities and in what state are they, or the type of make-buy decision, or kind of scaling your own organization on how many people do you have in which areas. So this is a useful canvas to help you design your operations. So I think I went quite quick to the whole thing, but what I would like you can check and download yourself the poster, so you can check a bit more the details here. So what we're saying is we have those three perspectives, and with the business and the capability in operations, and yeah, I hope you have a look at it, and also get back to us if you have some questions or suggestions about it. Are there any questions in the chat?
No, currently there isn't. And you guys, if you have anything, please don't hesitate to write it in the chat for everyone. Right. Thank you, Menno. If I now continue the sharing, and we will be going through the next topic, which is the implementation journey. So as you can see, we in the BT standard, we try to essentially give you a bit more tools so that it's easier for you to implement the actual BT standard and its extensions. And if you want to go through deeper into that, the strategy already, as Menno mentioned, gives you quite a lot of ideas about why you need to do certain things and how to do it. And now we this topic, BT operating model implementation journey, and this is essentially, we're going to be giving you a bit more ideas about when you design your operating model, how do you take people into account with that? And it's not only just to say that, okay, we're just going to change our operating model, it doesn't impact anyone. That's not how we want it to go, but to give you some ideas about what to consider. So essentially, when you are considering in an organization to change your way of working, there's always a human impact, and the operating model, especially when you implement something like that, you need to provide people with the support and resources to help those employees and people to adapt and essentially thrive in the face of change. So that's why we call this a transformation journey as well. And what it aims to do is to maximize essentially the positive aspects, and then we try to mitigate all the negative impacts through this um, through the information, through this journey. So what we have done here is provide you with a guidebook about what to consider and when to consider it, and how do you get people involved. So here we're defining this basically about like within a phase of within a time period, or during the period of implementation. When you start it, what you need to consider and how do you engage the people. So here we can see the engagement chart. You essentially start with of course, setting your objectives and identifying key people, but you don't need to do this with a whole bunch of people. So when you're starting your design, you essentially agree with a couple of people who are deciding and making decisions about what to do next and so on, and deciding on the strategy part and all of that. So you have to involve just a smaller amount of people. So you engage those, and then when you move on, you would, once you know your goals and so on, you would move on to engage a little bit more people. Let's say start engaging the community, building the community, and giving out communications. Then you're expected to have more people in the team, key people. And of course, this is what we say when we say we design a new way of working with people. It means we essentially make sure that people who are knowing the business, they're the ones essentially designing your way of working as well, and not to have a bunch of guys coming in who don't know the actual business and way of working, and then they're making decisions. That's not the case. Essentially, we should make sure that the right people are the ones deciding on your business and way of working. And then when you are going, once you have this type of considerations done, you have upskilled the people and make sure that you know what competence buildup is needed. Then you would transfer to, say, including the whole organization into it, and making sure that the changes are implemented properly, and of course making sure that there's training and coaching for the teams. And so the as you can see, the trajectory, when you go, the number of people grow according to the phases that you're going through. And what do I mean by that? Well, I have a chart here, or an illustration about how these people are engaged. And this might look a little bit messy and so on. And of course, when we're talking about transformation, we're not saying that you need to put this into, let's say, into a sequential step-by-step process, because what we're aiming with this picture is to give you a holistic picture about what elements are needed when you're talking about implementing a operating model or designing an operating model. You can see here the elements. The brownish line is the actual transformation journey. That's what your people will be going through, the people in the organization, what they'll be going through. The black line here, that's the actual design phases of the operating model. So you start them at some point once you have recognized the people, and then you engage them and so on. You need to have that sort of like the guidelines and principles defined. Then you have, of course, when we're talking about operating model and way of working, you don't just change one thing or guidelines or just principles. You need to be able to enable that with some sort of tools and workflows. So that's the blue line here. So that's the difference between these lines. And like I mentioned, this is not to be read sequentially, meaning that when you are going through these phases, in the beginning, you need to have you aim to have your objectives clarified. What are your needs? What do you need to accomplish? Before you can do any of engaging people or any of thing like that, or planning anything else, you need to have that sort of clear to yourself and to the people that are the key people that you're working with in the organization. And so that's the reason why you start with sort of the objectives. However, once you move forward, let's say you identify the people who are affected and so on, you need to make a plan. And the plan is a separate thing from this chart. This graphic or this illustration shows you what you would be expecting to do moving forward with your implementation and your design phases. But it does not yet tell you what phases do you need to repeat or what do you need to do when. So as a person who is involved in the transformation and the way of working transformation, changing that, you need to understand that, okay, at some point we will need to have organizational changes. At some point we will need to have some competence build up or organizational learning. So at that point, you would want to consider that in your plans when you're having your objective discussion or when you're trying to involve people. So you need to create a separate plan where you have a timeline for each of these. But this particular graphic will give you an idea about what it is that you need to consider in what point of time when you're doing your plan. And if you notice that there's a funny curving situation here. So once you have defined your objectives and your people who are going to get involved, then you would build a community. Before you build a community, you won't be able to turn people's mindset in that sense into getting on board with you. And that's why this curve here. So the curve represents sort of the turning point for an organization to get people on board. So that's kind of like a nice way to visualize the actual transformation stages in that sense. So turning point, when once you have the community on board, you get them to get engaged, you get them engaged, you communicate with them. And that's the only, after that, you would be able to say, okay, new competences are needed and how should people be upskilled or changes or whatever that's needed to be able to support the new way of working, and how do you support the people in their new roles essentially. And again, we have another turning point. That's where you have the organizational changes. So once you're done with the once you have been able to get people on board, build a community, engage people, communicate with people, build up their competence, then you would be able to have some sort of structural changes if needed and HR related changes. That's the other turning point. So once that turning point arrives, that's sort of like more saying that, okay, now something is happening like very concretely. I'm going to start in a new position or start my new role and so on. So that's another turning point. Once that's achieved, then you're able to get your organization over to like learning something more. Let's say you're going to open it up to a bigger audience and get your whole organization up on board. And coach and support here is referring to having, let's say, the continuous development ongoing, meaning that if you have, for example, change your way of working from traditional project management to add on more sprint-based and iterative way of working or agile way of working, you will need to have to support your organization with agile coaches, with all this type of support and coaching. And that's what it basically means. So what is it that you need to continuously coach and support your organization in order to move forward? So I hope that I was able to convey the message of what this illustration may look like. And inside the transformation guidebook, or let's say this operating model implementation guidebook with focus on people, what is in there are different stages. They are basically, it's basically describing what you need to do and giving you examples for this. For example, let's say you need to engage and communicate with the people. So what does it mean, people engagement? What does it mean to have change communication, and examples on those? So that's the content of the guidebook. And here I would also like to give you an idea about these different stages and why they are essentially mentioned here and why it's important. So if you see this small picture here, let's zoom in on that. This we call the implementation levels. So what it essentially shows or gives you the idea of what it is that you need to have in order to be able to be successful in your transformation. So if you start from the top part here, tools and automation, scale with tools and automate with processes. It involves essentially using the tools to automate, to support, to scale, and the new operating model. And it ensures that the organization can fully leverage the benefits of the new operating model and essentially achieve what you need to have to do, the efficiency that you want to gain. So here, when we're talking about the tools, we're talking about having a single source of truth, having that one platform that everyone, it gives you transparency and visibility and so on. So of course, this will also allow you to have more reporting data for insights and so on. Processes are aligned and consistent. And then we also have, of course, enable the quality and control, and you're able to scale and optimize different processes. Then when we talk about the competence and people level, what is it that we need to do there? What does it involve? So here, it's very critical to ensure that the people in the organization have the necessary support, necessary skills and competence to be able to work in the new operating model. And as you can see, the color is the same as the previous chart, and it's a bit like the brownish orange. That's what we refer to the actual people involvement. So people competence, the shift of competence to work in their defined roles. And then this next level, the third one here, is open source framework. And there's no need to reinvent the wheel. What is needed here and why do we need to have this level is essentially to enable that everyone, there's a consistency in implementing it. There's a standardized way of doing things. And to use an open framework basically allows you to be a bit more faster, but when you implement the operating model, it's going to be more efficient because it's already ready for you. It's standardized, so you know that you can trust it, and you know that it's something that you can work with consistently. And of course, best practices can always be followed throughout the processes, and that's something that you need to do also to adapt to your own way of working or to your own practices and so on. So it's something adaptable and customizable as well. Right, so that's about the 3 levels of implementation. And essentially that's the main things that I wanted to share with you in about the operating model transformation or implementation journey. And other things that I wanted to share with you.
Elena,
yes.
before you go there, it might be that there's some issue that the chat doesn't.
There's a chat.
I see that Clark, Matthew Clark has a question.
Okay, yeah.
I think I could open the mic. Wait a moment. It should now be possible. Talking permitted. So.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi,
yes,
can you hear me? Okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
I was just going to mention that the chat was disabled, just so that I don't know if you saw any other messages, but that's what I saw on my screen. So, but no, I'm enjoying the content today. Thank you.
Okay,
brilliant.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. It should be hopefully enabled now. So.
But then
there's no, I can't see anything though, but maybe we give this chance to have someone, if you can raise your hand.
Yeah, I have here Ratters. Who was there next? Thomas Müller. Allowed to talk.
Yep. Thomas. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thanks for this. This is super interesting. The chat is still deactivated, and I was asking.
Something,
I
apologize. Sorry.
You refer to download, and could you maybe at the end either email those links you mentioned or put it into the chat, because I can read chat but I cannot post anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
thanks.
actually take this opportunity. Thank you, Matthew. I can take this opportunity to show you where you can actually do the download. So let me just do that. And then I need to show you the website as well for the changes. So how about we do this? And can you confirm that you can see the website that I'm sharing?
Yes, yeah.
Perfect. All right. So if for anyone who doesn't know the website, it's called managebt.org. And if you go there, you're going to be faced with this beautiful grid here. These are tabs that you can just press on and link to. So this is website that you can go into each of these functions separately. And if you go up to the 3 bars here, we call this sort of the hamburger link, or what is it called? You press on that, and then you go down, there's something called downloads. And here in the downloads, we have added for you articles. First of all, articles are these type of white papers that the BT, regarding the BT standard, and the BT forum publishes these. Sometimes they're written with the community people and giving you an idea of what they are. So if you pressed on something like, okay, I pressed on the first one as an example, human-centered development of well-being and vitality in cities. This is an article regarding how cities development in public sector and so on. So you can just press there and say download article. The article will come up for you, and then you can start downloading. So that's pretty straightforward. We have material there, and these are all for free, and you can go in and see what you need. Then posters. So we mentioned posters in the chat. That's referring to these. So each of these, what Menno was showing you in his presentation as well, was the business technology strategy posters. So a poster is a snapshot of highlights of these type of pictures that are seen from the extensions. So if I now press on one of these, you can again download it just like you did the articles. So these are those, and then these are very useful if you want to discuss it with somebody or for yourself, look into deeper. And of course, to be able to get a full range of the extension, it's also available for free, but the only requirement is that you would be able to go through the training practitioner course or designer courses. And this is the reason for that is that you'll be able to get a bit more knowledge to how to use this material, because the materials are pretty big and might be a bit complicated. So it's not really, let's say, I just take it and use it type of material, this extension. But the BT standard, again, is open for everyone. That's actually part of the new things that I wanted to share with you. And then I'll just share the rest of what else is new. Other updates. So if you guys are a part of the community, you'd be able to get the published extensions inside the material bank. And of course, forget to say that if you are a designer or inside the community of designers, you're able to get the newest and greatest, latest and greatest materials through the material bank that the BT forum is providing. And for those who are just starting out, please go to our website and look at the posters and downloadables from there. And then the role extension, that's one of the things that we added as well, is the career model. So that's something very interesting for those who are working with the roles and competence building and development and so on. So those, you can have a look at that. And I have a few snapshots of what they include. So it has, for example, career development focus, what it is you focus on, career seniority level definitions, what that means, and how can you use the role description from the BT standard to create job descriptions, for example. That's one way to use it. And then, of course, we have added some things in the service lifecycle management, updated those with the ITIL compatibility, sort of a little bit open up on that, and the value creation framework for the end-to-end service lifecycle management. Okay. Very good. Do we have, Menno, anything going on with the hands and
no,
feet?
indeed.
Sorry, just hands.
Yeah, if somebody still wants to ask something, sorry about
Yeah,
that didn't
perfect.
work. If you,
Can you open up the mic for them?
yeah, if somebody wants to raise hands still with some questions, please do so.
Ah, yes.
Nope, there doesn't seem to be any more hands.
Okay. Excellent. If not, then I would like to thank you all for participating today, and that